California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna joins us now. Congressman, good to see you. Politics first. You recently announced you're not going to run for the United States Senate. Why?
I think the most exciting place right now for progressive policy is in the House of Representatives. We have a lot of new members, a lot of energy in the progressive caucus, and I love being here. I love representing Silicon Valley in the House.
You've endorsed Barbara Lee in that very competitive Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate seat. Why? And why not Katie Porter?
Barbara Lee has the most consistent anti-war foreign policy. I've admired her since I was in law school when she cast the lone vote to give a blank check to President Bush on the Afghanistan war that led to 20 years of a war and terror in this country. I believe that a lot of Bernie progressives and others will rally around her.
And as such, do you consider her the favorite in that race?
No, I think, look, candidly, I think Adam Schiff has to be the favorite with his war chest and Speaker Pelosi's endorsement, but I think Barbara Lee has a great chance, and she also will likely make the top two, being the only candidate from the Bay Area.
Interesting. Congressman, I want to refer you to something that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said today. While signing legislation he asserts in Florida will make homeowning more affordable. He said if Silicon Valley Bank had been in the Midwest and serviced farmers, it would not have been bailed out. Now, I know you don't agree with the terminology bailout, but his underlying point is there would have been no intervention. Your reaction?
Major, it used to be that before you could just pontificate or spout off, you had to know the facts. And here, if Governor DeSantis, who's gone to Harvard, to Yale, would actually just do a Google search, he would realize that in the last 10 years, there have been 73 banks that have closed, that FDIC has taken over. In at least 72 of those cases, they have guaranteed all depositors. This is Scott Galloway's research. And I just wish sometimes that someone like DeSantis would say, hey, why don't we check something on Google before I go make a statement?
And are you satisfied, Congressman, with the management of Silicon Valley Bank? There are those now criticizing the San Francisco Fed for not raising alarms soon enough, the bank management itself for missing things that could have been or perhaps should have been more obvious about their asset and duration allocations?
Well, the bank management is obviously to blame. They were in these long-term bonds because they were greedy for higher interest rates. They did not hedge on that. They had these large deposits sitting there uninsured, and they wanted to use that money to make loans. They should never have allowed that. There should have been more diversification. And I do blame the regulators. I mean, there were major red flags that should have been caught. But part of the problem, Major, is that many members of Congress and senators voted for the deregulation of these banks in 2018. I voted against that bill, and that led to an environment where these regional banks didn't have the scrutiny or oversight that they needed.
And as I understand it, Congressman, Silicon Valley Bank talked to you about that, was in favor of it.
They did. And you know, Silicon Valley Bank CEO in candor had supported my campaign. We've returned the contribution he made in 2014 or 15. So he and others were saying, you will hurt the Silicon Valley economy if you deregulate. We need more flexibility. I said, no, banks with that much deposits should be regulated. They should have stress tests. They should have liquidity tests. I was proud that I voted for the regulation and not deregulation. And I wish now we could get those regulations back. But the reality is a lot of Republicans and unfortunately too many Democrats voted for that deregulation.
Do you have confidence in Jerome Powell at the Fed?
I do. Look, I think he missed inflation and then had to accelerate 0 to 60 very fast. But I think his intentions are good. I think he's recognized his mistake. And I don't think it helps at this point to be attacking the Fed chair. I mean, what we need is to have confidence in him and Secretary Yellen to stabilize the economy.
There's a new poll out from Monmouth consistent with previous polls that indicates 44% of Democrats surveyed don't think President Biden should run for re-election. Do you? And why?
I do. You know, one of the polls has shown that the group that actually wants him to run are 18 to 34-year-olds because of his work on climate, because of his work on student debt. I think he's had a successful 2.5 years. But, Major, here's the big thing. I don't know a single Democrat who'd have a better chance of beating Donald Trump than President Biden. And despite all of DeSantis's rhetoric, I view him as kind of a Jeb Bush candidate. I don't think he's actually going to be a significant threat. I think Donald Trump is going to emerge, maybe Tim Scott. But if it is going to be Donald Trump, Biden is best placed to beat him.
What do you think is behind that percentage that looks to be close to the 40s, 50s of Democrats who, at one level or another, just aren't sold on the idea of a Biden reelection?
Well, I think let's be candid. He's going to be 80 years old. That's pretty unprecedented. He's had a very successful term, but Major, 80 is the new, 60? I mean, we also have had great advances in medicine and nutrition, and President Biden has shown that he's fit and up for the job, and he's going to have to show it in the reelection. But I believe deeply that he would never make the decision to run for reelection. Jill Biden wouldn't let him make that decision if he didn't think he had the stamina for the campaign and the ability to serve out 4 more years.